There is something divine. That is what I am. Every time I use this word, I am the natural tendency of life. Is love, peace, beauty, harmony, and opulence. This, by the way, is what Lao Tzu said as well. For life cares not who uses it, but is constantly surging to pour more of its perfection into manifestation. Always with that lifting process, which is ever inherent within itself. I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is that students with sincere interest do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. When you say and feel I am, you release the spring of eternal everlasting life to flow on its way unmolested. In other words, you open wide the door of its natural flow. When you say I am not, you shut the door in the face of this mighty energy. I often tell my audiences, God didn't say when Moses asked, "What is your name and who shall I say sent me?" He didn't say my name is I hope things work out for you. He said my name is I am that I am. That meaning when he says I am that was Nisargadatta's great autobiography or biography, and a book that I have studied for 30 years now. He was known as the I am guru in India, and these two words I am have so much power within them. I am is the full activity of God having placed before you so often the truth of God in action. I wish you to understand its first expression in individualization in you, all right? The first expression of every individual everywhere in the universe, either spoken word, silent thought, or feeling, is I am recognizing its own conquering divinity. The student endeavoring to understand and apply these mighty yet simple laws must stand guard more strictly over his thoughts and expression in word or otherwise. For every time you say I am not, I cannot, I have not, you are, whether knowingly or unknowingly, throttling that great presence within you. So could God say I am depressed? Could God say I am sad? Could God say I am deep, I am unhappy, I am miserable? Not possible. And every time you say that, you blaspheme, because when you use the words I am, you are in union, you are in yoga with God. So when I do my yoga practice, and there's certain of these postures and asanas that I have a little more difficulty with others, especially balancing ones and so on, before I start the asana, my inner meditation is I am well balanced, I am perfect balance, I can do this, I am perfect balance. And as I do this, I begin to see that I am speaking to this body. And what is this body? It is nothing more than something temporary that is always changing, so it's not even real. Now, there's a book that I brought here with me, and if you don't buy anything here, and I don't care if you do, I didn't even bring them, somebody else brought them. But there's a book here that I would really love you to read. And if you haven't read it, I was blessed to be able to give this to my mom to read about 6 months before she passed on, and it just brought a sense of peace to her. The book is called Dying to Be Me, My Journey from Cancer to True to Near Death to True Healing by Anita Morjani. I wrote the foreword to this book. Mira, this love of mine right here, of the glasses on who just did a past life regression. Who did a past life regression with me that's in Wishes Fulfilled, which completely turned my life around in so many ways, brought something off the internet to me about this woman. She was wheeled into a hospital in 2005. Her weight was down to about 82 pounds. She had lymphoma throughout her entire body. She had tumors the size of lemons, over 24 of them, throughout her entire body. She was in a coma. She had tubes coming out of her and wires and so on. Her husband was there, and her mother was there. They were there to just say her last rites. This was to be her last night on earth. After 5 years of the steady growth of lymphoma while in this coma, she had what is called an NDE, a near-death experience. In this near-death experience, she came into contact first with her father, who had passed away 10 years before. Then she had an opportunity to have a vision about what her life could be. She saw her medical records there, which indicated that she was to die tonight. She also saw them change right before her eyes, where she had no cancer. No one in the history of the world, as far as we know, has ever been at this end stage of cancer and ever survived. That's how far she was gone. If you saw the pictures of her, that I have seen when she was in that state. You wouldn't think that anyone could possibly survive that. She was told that she could go back into her body and she would be healed. She was to teach the lessons that she taught here. Or she could go on, and she did not want to get it back into her body. It was just a wasted mass of flesh and bones. But for some reason, she went back in at her father's persuasion. 5 days after coming up, she opened her eyes and everyone was in shock. 5 days after that, they were trying to find, five days after she came out of the coma, 60% of her cancer had gone into remission. 4 weeks after she came out, she was totally out of the hospital. Completely. Today she lectures. She was on my public television special. Many of you may have seen it. She's an angel on this earth. And what she learned in this near-death experience was that all we have to do is treasure our own magnificence and recognize that God is not something out there that is within us. There's nothing for us to do. There's no job for you to do. You don't have to win. You don't have to be anybody. Who in this room has cancer? Somebody does. Where are you? Come on up. I'd like to give this to you. Have you read this? Well, I'd like to give this to you as a gift. What is your name? Kelly. This is going to change your life. I'd like you to say the words, I am well. I am well. I am perfect health. I am perfect health. God bless you. They have them in the back. It's a must read, especially if you have anybody who is in the position that my mom has been in for the last year or two. And, or even has any kind of illness at all, or as when I talked to Reed about publishing this book, he said, the potential audience for this is anyone who is ever going to die or knows anybody that is, and it's one of the most freeing, peaceful experiences to know that you're not here to accomplish anything. You're not here to be better than anybody else. You're not here to win. All you have to do is just love yourself. I mean, truly love how magnificent you are. And that's what I meant when Saint Germain spoke to me and said, it's all you have to do is spend 15 minutes being in a state of appreciation for the I am presence that you are. Now, one of the things that the I am discourse is taught that I was having trouble with this whole idea of manifesting is written on page 318. And I'd like to give this to you as we get ready to close. The student should constantly look within his human self and see what habits or creations are there that need to be plucked out and disposed of. For only by refusing to any longer allow habits of judging, condemning, and criticizing to exist can he be free. Are you hearing this? The true activity of the student is only to perfect his own world, and he cannot do it as long as he sees imperfection in the world of any of God's children. That includes the person who opened fire in Aurora. That includes Osama bin Laden. That includes Adolf Hitler. Any judgments that we have of judgment, criticism, and condemnation. And I wanted to manifest something so bad for such a long period of time, but the person that was involved in it, I kept having this sense of judgment toward this person. And it wasn't until I was able to say, I accept you for what you are. It's what led me to my father's grave in 1974. And I stood there after being sent there by a series of just absolutely impossible coincidences. I stood there on his grave after being filled with rage and hatred and anger and bitterness towards this man who would walk out on my mother and her 3 young boys. I was the youngest, and I finally found out about his death, that he had been dead 10 years, but I went to his grave in 1974 on August the 30th. And as I walked away from his grave, because I really went there to piss on his grave, I was so just filled with rage in them. And as I walked back to the rent-a-car, something called me back, and I went and stood there looking at this plate on the ground that said Melvin Lyle Dyer, 1914 to 1964. And something came over me. In fact, we've made a film about another film called My Greatest Teacher. And I was able to say to my father, from this moment on, I send you love. Who am I to judge you and condemn you? You did what you knew how to do given the conditions of your life, and I accept you for it. Mark Twain once said that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it, on the heel that has questioned, enjoy it. My greatest teacher, who was my greatest teacher, after that, my entire life changed. I stopped drinking, I started exercising, my writing shifted, I went back to New York. I was professor at St. John's University in New York City. I took 2 weeks to go down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, checked into the Spindrift Motel, and wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones in 14 days. 14 days today, there's close to 100 million copies in 47 languages around the world. And everything in my life after that shifted. My diet changed, my habits changed. Everything turned around because I got the rage out of me. Because in order to attract the elements that are going to bring you the ability to manifest into your life what you want, remember how I opened this program. We do not manifest what we want. That comes from a place of missing. We manifest what we are. The angels who will guide you throughout your life will only be there for you when they recognize themselves in you. And they cannot recognize themselves in you and guide you when you are filled with hatred, anger, judgment, condemnation, bitterness, fear, anxiety, stress. You have to let all of that go and be loved. Be in this place, a perfect divine love, love for everything and everyone on our planet. That's self-actualization at work. And the principles for bringing this about into your life are the last 5 chapters of Wishes Fulfilled. But basically, what it says is the greatest gift that you've ever been given, the gift of your imagination. And your imagination is yours to be able to do anything you want with. You can place any thought in there with the awareness of I am. There's a very famous poem about that moment of Moses speaking to God, and it says, "Earth's crammed with heaven, and every burning bush afire with God. And those who truly know take off their sandals, while the rest sit round it and pick blackberries." That's your call. It's your call. So, your imagination is the greatest gift that you've been given, and you can put anything in there. No one can tell you what can be there or what can't be there. Einstein said, "Imagination is greater than knowledge." And he said, if you want your children to have a great imagination, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be even smarter, read them more fairy tales. That's why I've written 5 children's books with that very idea in mind. The second thing is that you have to learn to live from the end. Whatever you have placed into your imagination, you have to act as if it already were your reality, independent of what anything or anyone else says. When I was told that I had this diagnosis of leukemia, I can't tell you how many people sent me condolence letters and sent me information about this disease and how it was incurable. And unfortunately, I was given by my children a wonderful gift, and it's called an iPad, and it's got this wonderful feature in it. It's called Delete. And then there's another feature of it. It's called Trash, which is really great. I'd like to have a button like that on me at any time, so that anytime anybody brings any information to you, you just push Delete, just push the trash button. It even makes a little sound. It goes, hit the lead, and it's gone. I had this little scar that you see right here on the right side of my face. There was a skin cancer thing there, and I was going to the dermatologist, and they were going to cut this thing out. And I had a woman stop me, and she said, "That's really bad." I said, "What?" It's just a little red mark here, and they're going to just cut it out, and it'll be fine. She said, No. She said, "My girlfriend's husband, he had that. They had to cut his penis off." I said, "Just got a little red mark on my chin, and I got that. That couldn't possibly trash, right?" You want to be very careful, because there's always people out there who are willing to send you messages about how terrible something's going to be. The third of these principles is the principle of, I call it, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must be able to feel it, because every time that you feel something within your body, you give an instruction to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you where you do all of your living. You want to redo your subconscious mind.